Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Miller, and we are going to talk about the wonderful things going on in the Capitol Blue Cross Theater with Theatre Director Janet Bixler. Janet, it's always my pleasure to have you on, and you know you're always on the final episode of every single podcast, so we are so happy to have you here today. Welcome back.
Thanks, it's good to be here.
We're also here with the president of the CP Players, Parker Rose. Parker, welcome back.
It's great to be here, Professor Miller.
You're always here for a variety of things, but in that particular capacity, we're going to talk about your job with the CP Players and certainly hide and seek coming up. We're also being joined by Jen Dulac. Jen, welcome back to the podcast.
Hello.
Jen is the vice president of the CP Players, and that's really what we're going to focus on here today, talking about the student-devised play, the 6th annual student-devised play, Hide and Seek, that's going to be coming up on March 5th, 6th, and 7th, March 5th and 6th for a 7:30 p.m. curtain, and March 7th for a special matinee at 2:30, of which I will be attending with my wife, Jackie. She loves to come to these. In fact, I believe that she has been to every single one of the student-devised plays, as have I. Always one of my favorite things. Janet, as we usually do, one of the things I wanted to talk with you about was what happened since the last time we had you on the podcast. So I believe the last time we had you on was just before Thanksgiving, and we didn't have necessarily a chance to talk about what has happened since then. Two major events have happened in the theater since that time, one being the Elf Mafia murder mystery. So can we just start off, how do you think that went? Is that something that, in terms of the dinner component, you might do more often, or were there some things that popped up that maybe you weren't quite anticipating?
It was a huge success. We had 2 nights of entertainment. One was a special night specifically for guests of the Education Foundation here at Central Penn College. And it was full of people who support our foundation, our school, our board of directors. We had a full staff of students from the drama club as servers, and we had Sandy and Mary Beth from the foundation extremely instrumental in both nights in creating a connection for bringing in great Italian food from Owls of Hampton, who is one of our alums. And then the second night was open to the public, and it was actually oversold. So we had a good full house for that. And the entertainment, the Oxymoron comedy troupe that created the murder mystery, they enjoyed both nights a lot. It was really fun to create kind of like a restaurant inside the theater. But I know Parker and I had a lot of fun in the kitchen the second night because we had a lot of chaos in the kitchen. So it was a typical restaurant chaos, and there was havoc, but it was a lot of fun.
Chaos. Parker, What do you mean chaos?
We had some things where we had low on lasagna and had a hard time with cotton, so we had to go get more, and we were delayed a little bit, and a lot of the beverage drinks that we had on the table were running low, so it was just a lot of running around. Like, I was trying to enjoy the show, but when you are a food service worker for the couple nights, you know that you're always going to be on your feet, very busy.
Well, and so I guess the question is, it obviously went well, Janet, with having 2 back-to-back sold-out performances. Do you think that part of the reason for the success was the fact that you had the food right there along with it?
Oh, yeah. People love being fed. Right. The murder mystery aspect, because the whole murder mystery is that the mystery happens and then you eat. The mystery happens and you eat. The mystery happens and you eat. Yeah. People love that.
I think that's really cool. And again, I wish so bad I could have been there. I was at school that weekend, but I would definitely really want to come back, and I heard amazing things about it. And no matter how you look at it, 2 back-to-back sellouts is always a wonderful thing, and probably really what you're shooting for, Janet. Jen, what were your experiences from the Elf Murder Mafia mystery?
I was mostly a runner and drink giver, I guess. I thought it was hilarious, so much fun. I saw a lot of joy in people's faces, which I really thought was the best part about all of it. I didn't experience as much chaos as most other people did, but it was just an exciting, continually flowing experience.
I always really enjoyed going to these types of things, but I think that it brings definitely a different wrinkle being here at Central Penn, because Janet, one of the things that I always really praise you on is the fact that you've done so many different types of things. Obviously, it's an annual thing to do the student devised theater performances, but since then you've done, all types of different avenues of theatrical performances, and this is just one more and one different type that really goes to show why the Capital Blue Cross Theater is such a wonderful place in our community, because of the different types of things that you do. Did that ever enter into your thought process whenever you were creating this idea for the dinner theater, if you will?
Oh, yeah. Everything I put on the season is all about how are we going to get audience into the theater and get new faces, because we're still a very new venue, even though we're 5 years old. I can't do a whole season of student-created or original work because that is not everyone's taste. So I have to create a whole variety of things to try to get people in to see what we do and get people involved. So yeah, I mean, we've done a musical, we've done a cabaret, we've done a full-length straight drama, we've done evenings of shorts, we've done a lot. We've done comedy, we've done the murder mystery, we've done coffee houses, we've done jazz and poetry. Yeah, a whole variety.
I think that's again, one of the best parts about it is you're never going to go and see something that's even similar to something else that you've ever done, which I think is really cool. Well, another thing that I want to talk about is something that we just experienced earlier this month in February, the Vagina Monologues. Obviously something that we've done for several years here in a row, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about not even so much what your particular role is with it, but maybe why you think as theater director this is something that every single year not only is important to do, but is still relevant.
Sadly, it's relevant because women are still being abused and not listened to.
How do you approach it each year to make it different than the year before? So we just said about how different things are from year to year. How do you make from year to year the Vagina Monologues different and unique, and so people want to keep coming back year after year?
We definitely try to pull in a whole variety of faculty, staff, students, and community to perform in it. So creating a different cast every year is important, because then we'll bring in other people that are related to the cast. Oftentimes you don't have much leeway with the monologues because Eve Ensler puts out a very prescribed program that you need to perform. So there isn't a whole lot of leeway to make it different, actually. People come out because they believe that the cause is really, really important, and the variety of women performing each year. And I was fortunate this year to actually perform, and Adrienne Thoman directed and produced. And that was very fun to get up on stage and do something.
When's the last time that you were up on stage?
I'll remember when we did Passions, which was a night of 9 different stories of passion. And one of our actors was going to do the monologue from Hamlet, To Be or Not to Be, the passion to whether to kill yourself or not. But then that's a whole debate. Like, is he really talking about suicide? Our actor had to pull out, and then I performed that one.
It's been several years since you've had the opportunity to get on the stage.
Yes.
Well, we thank you. How successful do you feel that it was?
Oh, the Vagina Monologues? Mm-hmm. Very successful. Adrienne was very pleased. We just spoke yesterday. She was pleased with all the actors coming together as an ensemble, and all the young actors who really haven't done anything like that before really stepped it up, and they were dynamic. Because, it has to be performed with script in hand, and that can be very wooden. But and that's the testament to the performer and to the director to get the piece to live in that moment at the microphone, even with the script in hand. And so it was very dynamic. She was very pleased, and she raised, the whole event raised $700 for the Carlisle Rape Crisis Sexual Assault Center.
Awesome. Jen, you were involved in the production, correct?
Yes, I was.
Can you tell us what it was like? This obviously you've been here and working with the theater, and I know that you'd done things prior to coming here. Was this something way different than what you were used to, or did you feel a little bit more comfortable because of your experience?
It was so out of my league. Because when I was in high school and everything like that, it was always like memorize by the book. Has to do, and there's choreography and there's so much to go into it. The Vagina Monologues, although it's simple, there's so much still that has to go into it, because you may be reading off of a piece of paper, but you have to read it with emotion and passion in your voice. You have to have everything that's still there, even though you're not memorizing it. So it's a really, really different experience. I did my piece with Amaya, so we did a lot of work together, being able to practice it like together in our home, and bounce off of each other to give each other critiques and things like that. It was a very different and positive experience.
And Jen, did you notice when we performed it for each other in the rehearsal compared to when the audience was there, how much the performance changed, how much you were fed by the audience's reaction, and how then you responded?
Absolutely. As soon as Amaya said a specific line where she tango dipped herself, the audience was like, ooh, because it was so like saucy. And that was like the moment that our entire thing changed. It was a whole different, another realm, another layer onto the entire performance, because we didn't have that kind of reaction when we were doing it during rehearsals. So
again, just speaks to the not only the quality of what it is that you do in the theater, Janet, but the variety of the things that you do in the theater, and we certainly appreciate that. Well, I do want to talk and spend the remainder of the podcast talking about Hide and Seek. Hide and Seek is the 6th student-devised theater production, and that'll take place in the Capitol Blue Cross Theater on March 5th and 6th at 7:30, and March 7th for a special matinee at 2:30. I want to start off by bringing in Parker here, because, fans of the podcast who have listened to before, we've talked a little bit about where this came from, and I definitely do want to talk about that with Janet in a moment. But I guess my first question is, this is one of the big things that the CP Players does and helps to put this show on. So members of the Players are not only actors, they're also tech, they're also greeting guests, work in the box office. So this is really an opportunity for the club to shine. How did you come up with the theme, or can you tell us a little bit more about the theme for this year, Parker?
Janet actually came up with the theme of Hide and Seek. And in my opinion, when I think of Hide and Seek, it's like we were taking something that we've been hiding in our past, because that's what my story is relating to, something that I've been hiding in my past, and we are going to find and use the seeking part to how we're going to seek that problem to be able to solve it and move on from it. So been hiding for so long with something, we're taking this, or there's people in the opposite direction who are just seeking in their story, who already are hid enough and they're already seeking, or vice versa.
So you're saying that it's sort of a different way for people to look at how they're approaching their lives in a way?
Depending on the scenario, it can be, I would say, yes.
Hide and seek, it's about looking at your life. What have you been hiding? What are you seeking for? And really, approaching your life. What decisions do you want to make now that you realize? But each person's hide and seek story is unique because, like Parker's, is very timely right now. Things that he noticed culminating as a young man that he had been hiding, and what he was seeking for in all those years of hiding certain aspects of himself, and then things really hitting the climax in his personal life right now with this hide and seek concept. And then Jen, who can talk more obviously of her own story, but it's something that she has reflected on for a couple years now, being a young adult, and has, kind of like what Parker alluded to, has journeyed past the hiding and is in that seeking to go beyond with that knowledge to seek what you can do with that knowledge. But Jen, you can clarify, of course.
My story is pretty different from Ligia and Parker's in the sense that Parker and Ligia are still in the middle of seeking a solution to their past hidden issues, while I am currently seeking for other people to get beyond the point of seeking the solution and instead seeking to educate others. So my timeline on my story is very different compared to the other two.
Now, let me ask you, when you sit down to start creating this, first of all, when was that first meeting that you sat down and started even the brainstorming process, so we can kind of get a sense of the length that it takes to put on something like this?
It was the second week of term. It was a Tuesday.
Yeah.
So the second week of this term. So you're looking back as far as January. So you've already been in pre-production, if you will, for 6 weeks?
Right, that's very little time.
Yes, but still, I just kind of want the audience to understand a sense of the depth of time that it takes. So you're saying 6 weeks, and it's going to end up being 2 months from when you started talking about it to when you're putting on the show. And to some, that might say, 2 months, that's plenty of time. Why would you say that that's a very short amount of time?
So if you see Parker's face shaking his head, well, first of all, Tuesdays we only get 2 hours together. We don't meet every day of the week, and often we don't have every ensemble member with us because of their other commitments. So we're using the time the best we can with the people we have and trying to continually move forward with how we're developing it. And also the very fact that it exists in nothing at the beginning, you have to go through that whole process of finding what needs to be said on stage and then figuring out how you're going to say it and then figure out how you're going to say it well.
So where did this idea for hide and seek evolve from? You know, so we talked about sort of what it meant, but like who was the person that came up with the idea or the people or what was the collaborative process initially?
For the topic hide and seek, it just came to me when we were wrapping up Lost and Found. And I've always presented the topic to the ensemble. I've never asked them to give me a topic and I've never asked the audience for a topic, which may change in the future. But then when we got together, this is the first time in the 6 plays that we've created together, or I've created with students, that we spent really a full month just developing the stories that they needed to tell. We knew somewhat from the beginning it would take the shape that it's taking, only in one aspect though. There's an element of going back into time and history in a very specific format that was brought to the table before our first meeting. But how that would be framed theatrically, we did not know. And so we spent the first month really figuring out what is the story you personally need to tell, and then how do you want to tell it through this historical angle that we wanted to take. And then there's suspense in it, and suspense is, you got to have all your little ducks in a row if you're going to have the suspense play out correctly.
Parker, without going into too much detail, because I don't want you to spoil anything, because we obviously want everybody to come out on March 5th, 6th, and 7th, where did you come up with the topic that you are going to be bringing to the table?
I came up with that topic actually when Janet mentioned about hide and seek, and I actually really thought about it. The topic, like what Jen mentioned, I'm still with that in the middle hiding with my story because I'm a person that's like, I don't know, I don't want to say the wrong thing to someone. So that's a little bit of a hint of where my story's going. And I'm going to allude to what Janet was saying about the process. From being in the past 2 student-created plays, I was a student that, like, by now, within a month, we were already on our feet. But this one, it's taking a lot more. And I got nervous about, like, oh, no, we're going to be a little bit behind because we're not on our feet yet. But now it's starting to adopt a lot more easier now since we got all our scripts handed out. And also for the audience, just be prepared for new language speaking, too.
Is this your second or third student creative?
This will be my third.
Do you think that experience... So you're saying that you had a little nerves about the timeline. Do you think that your previous experience with these student-devised theater productions is helping you maybe relieve some of that anxiety a bit?
It is because, well, like I said, the last 2, like, everything was, like, more in order. Like, we weren't in the development stage as much, but this one, we were in a lot more the development stage. And I actually mentioned to Jen, I said, Jen, I feel like we're a little bit behind on this one. And then she's like, it is because of the approach we're taking with this one, because of how much information's going into it. And now I'm seeing it as we're developing, like, okay, I'm glad we did take that extra step and time to take our time and realize, because now it's starting to run smoothly. Right now we're at the stage where we're blocking everything and just memorizing our lines, and we'll be ready to go.
With all of your interaction with Janet, you would think that you would know by now that she's got it under control.
Oh, I do. I set in the rotation. I have full trust in the theater director, so...
Jen, my question is for you. Next question is for you. Have you ever done anything quite like this before?
Never.
And so what would you say some of your early takeaways are from the process that you're going through to put this on?
So I am somebody who has to have everything laid out for me to feel comfortable.
You and I are very much alike in that perspective.
I have to have everything organized. I have to have every scene laid out. I have to have everything highlighted of where I'm going to be and when I'm going to come out, and everything has to be laid out. But starting from scratch, I told Janet that it was going to be a challenge for me to be able to, like, set aside my organizational and logical and analytical brain to be able to just, like, delve myself into creating something and taking time and not having to stress about the end goal. So now I feel really confident, really excited about the entire process, and I'm excited to be able to put this on stage so that everybody can see the hard work that's gone into this. I've really had to, like, kind of change my perspective.
Yeah. So I knew Jen. I feel like we met one of your first days here on campus.
I met you before I even moved
Oh my
in.
goodness, I do remember that when you and your dad were on tour and came to the theater, and I'm like, yes. And then Jen still came to us as a PTA. God love her. And there was so much going on. And then she felt it was time for her to move into the communications department. I'm like, yay. But then, so having known Jen, I actually sat with her before we started the official work on this show. And I told her how we go into the unknown and the need to trust that process, and that we aren't going to have anything like written in stone for quite a while. And we're going to have to be okay with the ebb and flow of ideas and the creation. And like I sat with her alone to like talk her through that, because I knew that it was important for her to have things laid out. But I also know she's quite brilliant and creative, and she, like all the students, but she has a lot to offer beyond the obvious. So I wanted her involved, but I needed her to be comfortable. And so I'm really happy and excited to hear her say that she's been aware of it constantly, like this push and pull within herself, and that she's kind of on that other side now of the process and happy about it. And, you know, we brought in, and I'm sorry, Paul, but because you wanted to say something, but we brought in a couple things that were different this year. Because of Jen and Legia's natural talent for singing, we have brought in live singing, where we're using a variety of songs from a variety of musicals that speak to their stories and work. But also, we brought in we always bring in our counselor. And John, who is our intern this year, has been wonderful coming in and visit on Tuesdays. Well, we brought in a local drama therapist who is a counselor that uses drama techniques to help people understand what they're trying to process. And we brought Patrick Hughes in as a drama therapist to do a 2.5-hour session with us to dive into group cohesion, but also to our personal hide and seek stuff. And then that allows us to layer even deeper. And I was actually... we haven't talked much about it, so I'm just throwing it out to the friends here. Having now a week or so since Patrick visited, how do you feel that time helped strengthen the telling of our stories?
I think that rather than the story itself as developed, I think that our communication and ensemble building has definitely grown, because now we're understanding each other from a whole different emotional perspective than we ever did before. So I think it was a really wise choice to bring the drama therapist in to talk to all of us. And yeah, I think that's where I am.
I agree with Jen. I think it built a lot more confidence in the ensemble, because like I was going to mention is this ensemble is made up of veterans and rookies in student created play. And me being a person who's used to Bree McCoy being like part of an ensemble, because me and her always used to bring the comedy, I'm looking forward to share that collaboration and experience with the other members of the cast to build a connection and a chemistry. So this play, I'm actually very excited for it to be able to build that chemistry and develop the chemistry that we are going to develop and get it done.
A couple of things that I wanted to read. Here's just a few reasons why you should attend this play. There are 6 student actors, 1 student tech, and 1 student scribe, who by the time the show closes on March 7th will have invested over 100 hours of their time in addition to their classes, classwork, jobs, internships, other responsibilities with family, with their being RAs, club officers, etc. These actors dig deep to craft an original story based on actors' personal connection to the topic, hide and seek, and this requires them to be vulnerable, resulting in some powerful personal growth. But there's also, as serious as parts of this are, there's also comedy and live singing that is woven throughout the play with unique staging. And Parker told me that we should expect something a little different than what we're used to when we walk into the Capitol Blue Cross Theater. Parker, would you like to share a little bit about that?
If you remember in the last Student Creative Play Freshman, you guys were all facing the front. This time we turned you guys sideways. You guys aren't, the main stage isn't going to be in the front of the theater by where the stage is. It's actually going to be, stage left, right? Stage left is stage left will be the main stage. So you guys will be facing that way, and then the actual stage will be to your right. So and it actually incorporates really well. Like, we're going to get all new lighting in there, and it's going to be amazing.
One major advantage to having a black box theater like that, Janet, that you can do some different things like that. So, and even just in terms of the variety of shows, the way that you've set up different shows in there in terms of the seating, I find is always very unique too, because you never really know what you're walking into. Well, Janet, I really, really appreciate, and of course Parker and Jen, I really appreciate you taking time to come down here today to talk about Hide and Seek one more time, March 5th, March 6th at 7:30, and March 7th at 2:30. You can go to hide-n-seek.eventbrite.com to grab tickets, and we really just looking forward to this wonderful event coming up. It's always something that I personally look forward to, and we just wish you all the best and hope that this goes off with a little bit less chaos than the Elf Murder Mafia mystery.
Thanks so much for having us.
Sure. And Parker, thank you very much, and Jen, thank you very much for being a part not only of the Central Penn Players, but of taking your time out in addition to all the other 1,000 things you both are up to here on campus to make a wonderful student-devised theater production.
Thank you. I love what I do.
I enjoy doing the student creative play, and for people listening, this may be my last one being here at Central Penn, so please come out and support the rookies and support everyone in the cast. We all appreciate, and we would love for you to be there to enjoy it.
Don't worry too much. Parker's not leaving us just yet. This just might be his last student-devised theater production. Janet, before we get out of here, can we just take a look at what's coming up in future terms before we leave?
Well, it's really exciting. What's up next for the Capital Blue Cross Theater will be a theatrical showcase. And, you know, the 2020 Capital Blue Cross Theater season is titled Season of Discovery. So we opened with the Vagina Monologues, great discovery in the world of the women's stories and the need for protection and strength and autonomy for women. We then go into Hide and Seek and the discovery of what we have hidden and what we are seeking for all those in the audience as well. And then the theatrical showcase is going to be a variety of short pieces, all on the theme of discovery. It'll be kind of like a cabaret. It'll kind of be like a variety show. Love to make it a little bit like the Carol Burnett variety show, but I don't know if we have any of those kind of comedians available. But we will hopefully have a short play that is comedy-based with Parker and another student. It's a 2-person play. Love to bring Jen and Legia and some other people back doing some singing from other musicals, and possibly if they wanted to showcase some monologues. But what is super fun is we're going to get a good number of staff from the Central Penn College family on stage performing.
That's always fun.
And we're not talking just Adrienne Thoman, who does every other show with us. We're talking about people who are a little scared about performing.
I think everybody's got to have a little bit of nerves when it comes to getting up on a stage like that, Janet.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I'm hoping to bring in some community people that maybe want to showcase their stuff. I'm very excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for being here today. That's going to do it for another episode of the Nightly News Podcast. For Vice President of the Central Penn Players, Jen Dulac. For President of the Central Penn Players, Parker Rose. And, of course, for our illustrious Theater Director, Janet Bixler. Thank you so very much for being here today. And we'll see you again next time on the Nightly News Podcast.
What's up? This is Dr. Linda Fedrizzi Williams, and you are listening to the Nightly News Podcast.
Well, welcome everybody to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and we are here today for our final podcast of the term.
Already?
Yes. So, as you may know, Adrienne, and you probably do know because you're on all the time, you're basically like my co-host in a way, if you want to look at it that way. You are always the first and last of the term, and then, of course, you're on in the middle as well, because we have you on each and every month to take a look at what we have going on here on campus. So we do podcasts every single term from weeks 1 through 8. This just so happens to be week 8, and actually, because of when we're recording, this is actually going to come out a day late. So,
What?
Yeah, it's actually going to come out Wednesday of week 8 as opposed to Tuesday, but that's not a problem. I let everybody know on social media, so if anybody's got an issue, I'll just have them take it up with you. So obviously March is always a fun month because it is the end of the term. Everybody looking forward to the break coming up. Maybe not everyone looking forward to finals week, but to me, March is always a wonderful time for a couple of different reasons. It mainly has to do with Central Penn sports. So both the basketball USCAA championships will be coming up in early March, and also my favorite, Adrienne, the start of the baseball season.
And I know this is off topic, but have you seen the awesome promo pictures of our baseball team?
Absolutely. I actually was at Media Day and got to see the setup and the artistry of the photography that day. Yeah, there were some excellent photos.
Yeah, they look so cool.
One thing, I know that this is not necessarily the announcement. We actually announced this on our previous podcast where we had Coach Stern and Coach Wise on from the soccer and baseball teams respectively. The Nightly News Media Club is going to call all 14 home games this year.
That's amazing.
In the past, we have done a few here and few there. We're kind of trying to, get our bearings under us. We are going to be calling 100% of the games. Now, I do want to point out that there may be some times if there are some rescheduled games that we may or may not have staffing for those games, but we are going to do everything we possibly can to call all of the games, and that's going to start this Sunday at 2 o'clock for a doubleheader, and that'll be on the Nightly News at Central Penn College YouTube channel. Really looking forward to the baseball season. You can tune in a few times in the month of March. First, it will be March 1st, as I just mentioned, also March 4th at 2 o'clock, March 11th at 4 o'clock, and March 28th at 2 o'clock. That'll be a Sunday, a couple of Wednesdays, and a Saturday. And the reason that I want to bring this up, not just to drive, people tuning in, this is also going to be Brian Christiana's really last hurrah with the Nightly News. Brian will be graduating. Of course, you heard Tom Russell and Bob Hauer on the podcast with Brian earlier, one of our best and highest ranked, rated podcasts we've done. But Brian is going to be helping us with these games in the month of March before he rides off into the sunset. So tune in to see Brian. Tyler Coleman, president of the Nightly News, and Tyrene Smalley are also going to be part of the broadcast this year. We have a big season coming up for the baseball team, and if you listen to Christian and Connor on the podcast, they think very highly about their chances this year. So, and of course, we will be cheering on, Adrienne, the both men's and women's teams. Now, when we've recorded this, we do not know specifically if they have been selected to the USCAA tournaments, but with the records, it's fair to assume that both of them are going to make it. So we're going to cheer them on, and we will be cheering on the Knights baseball team.
Absolutely.
So just the little PSA there for those two different areas here on campus. Now, Adrienne, earlier in today's podcast, we got to sit down and talk with Janet Bixler a little bit more about the upcoming Hide and Seek, which we will be talking about later on in the show. Another thing I wanted to talk about with you is one of the things that you really helped bring here to campus, and that's the Night and Day Cafe Live.
Oh, yes.
Let's talk a little bit more about that. So this, as we're speaking, you've had two of them now completed, with February's edition being with Shrimp Ryan's Jig Band.
Oh, he was so much fun. The whole band, they were so much fun.
Now, if for those people who may not be familiar with who Shrimp Ryan is and what Shrimp Ryan does, can you give us a little brief overview of the band?
Oh my God, I'm going to get this all wrong because I'm not hugely knowledgeable about styles of music, but it's like a folky kind of fun, like upbeat music. It was it was hard not to dance. I was really struggling in the calf not to bust move. It was really fun. And
he's certainly one of the most unique frontmen that you'll find, too. He's a very interesting cat. Like I said, I'd seen him play a couple of times and just shook his hand. Like, I don't know him personally or anything. But anytime I see him, he always shows up in my feed somehow.
Yeah.
So anytime I see him playing, I might try to swing out for a few minutes to see him. But so how was the response to it this time around?
I think it's good. The vibe is so different in the calf when there's live music in there. It really adds to it. I really have enjoyed how the whole lineup of artists has turned out so far, and definitely want to continue it because it's just to be able to just sit and chill and listen to music while you're eating your lunch with your friends and your faculty, and it's a pretty fun experience.
I think that it's something that we've got sort of the venue, and I know we talked about this last time, but maybe, in the spring and summer, having them be outside, maybe do a little cookout or something in conjunction with them. Maybe, maybe the AFA or somebody would chip in, because I know they do cookouts quite frequently. I think that would be, it's something that, Adrienne, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, like walk around here on a Saturday or something, and then walk around when the students are here. There's things like that going on campus. People are out of their offices. It's literally like an entirely different vibe. And I think that these, especially over the summer, and let's hope that whenever you book these, we have nice weather. To have them playing outdoors, I really think could be something special for the campus over the summer. And I know that when I mentioned it last time, you seemed pretty excited.
I think that'd be
idea.
fun to try.
So, I want to preview coming up here on March the 4th, Night and Day Cafe Live from 11:30 to 1:30 in the Night and Day Cafe with Kevin Koa.
So he's the only one that I hadn't connected to prior. We actually used an agent to book him, but he came highly recommended. I have a couple other contacts that recommended him as someone to bring in. So I'm excited to hear what he brings. He's a single guy, singer songwriter. So it should be pretty low key and chill and fun.
Awesome. One other thing that
a single guy, solo performer is what I was trying to say.
Of course, I know what you meant. One other quick plug before we move on to Adrienne's featured 3 is something that we have to do every end of the term, and that's going to be the late night breakfast. Just mark your calendars, March the 12th for the late night breakfast from 9 to 10:30 p.m. Adrienne, for those who have never been to the late night breakfast, can you just let us know not only what it's all about, because I think we can figure that out, but who are the people behind putting this together?
So we have an awesome group of faculty staff that come and cook up all of the pancakes and the bacon and have everything all ready for the students when they come. Pretty dedicated. Usually we get some of the same faces. Harv, Professor Tannenbaum is always Team Bacon, like he's back there getting that ready. And we've had many other volunteers that have been willing to come and help. So we're really lucky to have them. And this year, we are for this term, we are going to add some live music. We're going to have a band.
Nice.
Yeah. Radio Neon is the name of the group. I'm excited to give them a whirl and see how that works, having some live music at our late night breakfast.
Love it. All right. Well, Adrienne, I must say, now is everyone's favorite segment on any nightly news podcast. It's Adrienne's featured 3 events for the month of March. Adrienne, what is event number 1 on the March calendar?
Investing in Women with the PA Department of Banking. It's on Wednesday, March 4th at 6 p.m. in ATEC 200. Unfortunately, as women, we don't always do our due diligence to understand and get into the financial world. And I'm not saying that as a stereotype. There are certainly many very successful women in this field. But as a whole, a lot of us don't do our due diligence to take responsibility for our finances, really understand them, and do what we can to ensure our posterity in the future.
Well, and that's the thing, too. I think, it could be said that a lot of people really have trouble with this. And I appreciate the fact that Central Pine College is really taking some initiative in trying to offer things like this that are beneficial to not only just our faculty and staff and even students, but certainly the community at large.
This is open to the public, so everybody's welcome to come. This is the second time they've been here. They did a run-through it was in the fall term, and it was really interesting. And I loved how they were able to put ideas and concepts of investing in terms that I truly understood and would be able to apply. Okay, so event number 1 on the Adrienne's featured 3, Investing in Women with the Pennsylvania Department of Banking. That's going to be March 4th in ATEC 200 at 6 p.m. Adrienne, what is event number 2 on Adrienne's featured 3 for the month of March? Well, absolutely cannot forget to mention our 6th student created play called Hide and Seek, Mirror, Mirror. I am always so amazed, and they're top secret about this. Students won't tell me anything, so I'll be surprised when I get in there. But I'm always so amazed how they, through the process led by Professor Bixler, that they use their own stories to create a live show. And every year it's amazing. And the fact that it's from their own experience just makes it even more profound. So I'm really excited. Every time I hear something about this year's show, that they did some interesting things with the way the stage is set up and the way the seating will be. And I hear there may be I hope I don't give away anything. I'm not allowed to give away, but I hear there may be some music involved.
Well,
So-
earlier in the show, when we had them on, we did get a little out of them. So maybe
they have been tight-lipped. They won't tell me anything.
Tune into the episode. We got just a little bit out of them. What I find very interesting about all of these, Adrienne, is, to your point, how all of these stories are actually the individuals in the stories' true stories. So while they're potentially dramatized somewhat, the fact that the students are developing something like this is really spectacular. So I highly suggest making sure that you save the date for, it's March 5th and 6th at 7:30, and the event that I will be at on Saturday for the matinee at 2:30. So definitely make sure you grab your tickets. This is going to be a hot commodity around campus. Adrienne, before we move off of this, we just finished recording your podcast, and you talked about this a little bit, so I wanted to bring it over here because I think that what you're talking about is something that is going to be important and interesting. So for your first time, we just finished up the vagina monologues, which we talked about with Janet, and Janet talked about how she got to perform because you were the director.
We swapped roles this year.
Tell us a little bit about the directing process, maybe how it was different than being a performer in the ensemble.
It was definitely a new challenge for me. Stepped outside of my comfort zone a little bit, like having to be the one to have that vision of how the stage was going to be and how the lighting was going to be and where the mics were going to go. All that stuff kind of fell under my domain to try to figure out, and it definitely was a learning curve, but like in a good way. It allowed me to, I think, grow my skills a little bit, have a new experience, and I was able to do it. It was really nice to have Janet there because if I forgot anything crazy, she was like, hey, did you think? Like, she was a really great mentor through the process.
This was the 4th year for the production of the Vagina Monologues,
Yes.
correct? So you had been involved with it 3 years previous, with Janet directing.
Well, the very first year, Janet was in it, and then Caitlin Copas and I was producer and she directed it.
Okay, so this wasn't your first foray. It was your first foray into direction.
Yes.
Okay. So what does that mean? I mean, I know for a lot of people, it's probably, you might have an idea, but what specifically was your job as the director? Everything. Right?
Well, from start to finish, I organized the auditions, ran the auditions, did the casting. Now, there are people that helped me through all of this, but did the casting, had to create the script and who would do what role and figure all of that out, and then schedule individual rehearsals with all of the cast, then at run through and tech, being able to get all of the cast together to do some of the group pieces, making sure they knew how to come on, how to come off the stage, and then think about things like lighting and the box office and promoting the show and how to sell tickets and who's going to be the usher, and just there's a lot to think about.
And a special congratulations. You had over 90 people?
We had 98 in
That's
the house, which
unbelievable.
I was so excited about.
I wish you would have let me know. I'd have bought 2 more tickets just to make it an even 100. Of course, I was at the basketball game that day, calling the final basketball game, and I apologize that I wasn't able to make it.
I would have liked to be there too.
Adrienne, congratulations. What do you think is the future with you in the Capitol Blue Cross Theater? I mean, obviously, you're a part of so many. Of course, everyone remembers your role as Cleopatra.
Oh, I love that.
And, it's not even just that, just your involvement with the theater. Do you anticipate maybe directing something a little bit more robust?
I'll never say never because I'm usually pretty open to new opportunities, but I do think I enjoy being on the stage a little bit more. And there's certainly a different level of time commitment that comes with directing.
Course.
So,
well, congratulations to another wonderful rendition of the Vagina Monologues. Of course, tune back next February. Maybe they can get Adrienne to direct again. All right, Adrienne, what is the third and final event on Adrienne's Featured 3 for the month of March?
So from the Love You Themed House, LUVU, they are planning an incredible art expo. It's going to be themes of love and passion, LGBT positive, very, very cool collection of art pieces from the campus, faculty, staff, community. It's 2 days. They're going to have a preview on Friday the 13th. Oh, Friday the 13th. I just realized that.
It's okay. Jason hasn't been around lately.
And then they're going to have a more formal event on Sunday, the 15th. But I'm excited about it. I can't wait to see all the art pieces. I have been going through my art to find some photo selections that I'm going to submit for consideration for the gallery. And
nice.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really cool.
I didn't know are you an amateur photographer as well?
Oh, not very well, but
So you're an amateur podcaster, you're an amateur photographer, you are an amateur director, actor, improver. I mean, come on, Adrienne. We continue to learn new stuff about you all the time. It's tremendous. How you have time to do all this stuff, I will never know. You somehow find time, so good for you. Well, Adrienne, it brings us to the end of another edition of the Nightly News Podcast and another term of the Nightly News Podcast. What an amazing term we've had. It's to have Tom Russell and Bob Hauer on was really, really something special. And I do, on our final podcast of the term, really just want to give a shout out to Brian Christiana. And I know you've gotten to know Brian pretty well. What is it about Brian that was so special during his time here at Central Penn College?
I mean, truly, he will forever be part of our Central Penn family. I love that he just had an enthusiasm. He still does. I don't mean had. He still has it. That enthusiasm for being involved and just making this the best possible experience for him while he was here. And he pulled other students in. So it wasn't just, I'm going to have fun at this thing. Let's get everybody involved. And he was definitely an asset to our student life here. We're going to miss him.
Something that I really would like to share about Brian is, I don't even know if he's going to look at this as a compliment, but I hope he does look at it that way. You know, I use him in class as an example all the time of the importance of involvement. And, you know, unfortunately, some students, frankly, in my personal opinion, kind of make excuses as to why they can't do certain things or don't want to do certain things. And I just point to Brian as somebody who came here as a wide-eyed freshman, you know, didn't necessarily have any, you know, connections or anything like that, but took advantage of everything that this campus offered, and now is basically, you know, looking to find a job in broadcasting that he loves so much. And just in his time here, he's already been president of the Nightly News. He helps me personally get our broadcasting off the ground with sports. He's worked with the Harrisburg Senators, with iHeartRadio, with PCN. I mean, he's already got
Homecoming King, president of Activities Advisory Board.
Right. And he's got the resume right now of somebody who's 26, 27, 28 years old. And I use this as an example in my classes of how easy it really is to catapult from college to the next level. And Brian, you know, a lot of the stuff that we've, you know, the nightly news, the sports broadcasts, and that's just for me, and of course many other positions here on campus. We couldn't have done it without you, man. So we're going to miss you. I'm hoping that you're going to still come down for our fantasy football podcast. I'm hoping you're still going to come down to help us out with some athletics broadcasts if you're available. But frankly, I hope you're not, because that means that you're big and successful somewhere. Yeah. So thank you, Brian. All right, just for a quick rundown, of course, I want to remind everybody to tune in this Sunday, March 1st, for the men's baseball opening day. That's in Palmyra in the net if you can join us live. If not, 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock for a doubleheader. Christian Fulp will pitch the second game of that doubleheader, and that'll be on the Nightly News YouTube channel. You can also see us March 4th. 11th and 28th. And of course, we'll be back in April as well. So our next podcast will update you on some of the games that you can see. You'll also want to stay tuned for Night and Day Cafe Live with Kevin Koa. That's at 11:30 on March 4th in the Night and Day Cafe. Get your tickets now for Hide and Seek along with this podcast. You'll see the link. That's on March 5th and 6th at 7:30. And a special matinee. I'll be doing autograph signings before the show on the matinee on March 7th. We've also got the, on March 4th, Investing in Women with the PA Department of Banking. That's an ATEC 200 at 6 p.m. And we are also looking forward to the Love You Art Expo. That's going to be the sneak peek on Friday, March 13th. And the full expo will be on Sunday, March 15th. So another amazing job on the schedule, Adrienne. And hopefully March is as nice to us as February was.
Thank you for having me back. I appreciate being here, being able to share some of the upcoming stuff we have happening.
And of course, go check out the Pirate Life podcast on all of your major platforms that you would find podcasts, and hear a little bit more about Adrienne and what she does in her spare time.
Oh my. I appreciate that plug, though, Producer Paul.
All right, that's going to do it for another episode of the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, so I'm going to sign off from Student Engagement Director Adrienne Thoman. This is Paul Miller, and we'll see you again next term on the Nightly News Podcast.